Hi and welcome to this video blog from me, Wayne, at swimmingcyclingrunning.com. Now this week I promised you a revelation about pool toys. Well, not a revelation, just the ones I find particularly useful. And then I started putting my pool toys together and I thought, geez, I've got a lot of them. In fact, I've got one more than this. For my daughter I actually bought a mono fin. That's a huge fin you put both feet in because she was a butterfly swimmer. So there's one more than this. I've not shown you it here because it's not very useful for triathletes except for building your core. Let me just run through these. I have a small pull buoy kickboard, a pair of Finis fulcrum trainers. These you put your hands in like that and they keep your hands steady. They're very good for people who tend to drop the elbow. A large kickboard. This is an inner tube with a sponge at the end of it. The sponge soaks up water. You put this around your waist and it's a resistance training tool. A pair of fins that are stiff. I very rarely use those. They tend to hurt my legs. A pair of short fins that are slightly more flexible. Here we have a Finis tempo trainer. Behind, put that up properly. Behind we have a normal pull buoy. We have a band here made of an old inner tube. You can do that. You can just stick it together either with super glue or bitumen. Super glue tends to work slightly better. I take 3 goggles along sometimes to a pool, but the large ones I tend to only use in open water with my goggle fog, of course. There's an aqua foil which is useful for as a kickboard or as a pull buoy, and it's specifically useful if you really want to work on your arms and you want to completely isolate your legs. A set of hand paddles, and finally a forward-facing snorkel. And believe it or not, I use all of these at some point or other. Now I might use all of those pool toys at some point or other, but which do I find absolutely most useful? Well, I can narrow them down to probably 3. The first would be hand paddles. But only slightly bigger than your hand. You can see that they're slightly bigger than my hand, and to use them properly just slip one finger through the straps. I see a lot of people going down the pool with hand paddles. They're huge things, much bigger than their hand, and they've got them strapped in at the back, strapped in at the side, strapped in at the front, and really, unless you're using them purely as a weight training device, which there are other things that are far more useful, they're actually useful as an instrument to tell you when you're going wrong. With one finger in the paddle, you can do everything with it you want. It's never going to come out if and only if you stroke correctly. The moment you stroke incorrectly, slam the hand into the water, push it against the water, you're going to feel it. If you push in sideways, the paddle's going to come off because you've only got one finger in there, and when it's wet, this is slippery. So use it. If you're going to use paddles slightly bigger than your hand, you can see I'm quite big on the shoulder and I still only use paddles this big. I have got bigger paddles, but I very rarely use them. They're for stroke control and stroke maintenance, and that's why you should be using them. One finger through. Be brave. Tell yourself when you're swimming poorly. Remember? Forward, through and back. It doesn't come off. Most people think it does. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be this thing behind. I use this quite a bit to isolate my arms. I'm very much an arm swimmer. I don't have much of a leg kick, but I do kick quite often. If I kick, I normally kick on my side, rotating and changing every 8. But I use this quite a bit to isolate my legs. With a triathlete, if you've been running beforehand, if you suffer from cramp, often the push-off from the pool side at each end is the thing that will really give you that cramp, that real generating massive forces from these muscles here and these muscles here will often give you cramp when you push off. If you use a pull buoy like this, slightly larger, you tend to find, and I tumble turn, whether you tumble turn or not, you'll still find it, that you cannot push off with such force. Lack of pushing off means you don't get that cramp. But then your legs are completely isolated. Remember, if you're doing pull buoy work, you're meant not to be using your feet, your legs. You're meant to have them completely trailing behind you. Now you can do that as a drag with something like the band there, and making sure you're using your core to lift your body up. Or you can say, okay, I'm really working my arms, and this type of thing will stop you from using your legs. I see a lot of people with ordinary pull buoys like this swimming along and they're still kicking. Not much point in using a pull buoy if that's what you're going to do. So that's the second thing that I would use. The third is this, a forward-facing snorkel. Now, that's the position that I would be in swimming. I'd be looking forward and down. Forward about 4 to 6 feet in front of where I am. And this just positions my head absolutely nicely. I can do tumble turns in it. When you do, you've obviously got to blow out the excess water once you've tumbled, but that's not a problem once you get used to it. What you can do with this is look forward, make sure you're pulling your arms straight under your body. You see that there? So you're coming forward, you're in, level with your shoulder, get to the catch, move through and drive it backwards, rotating both sides. And this is an exceptionally useful tool for that. I think most triathletes should have one of these in their armoury to make sure that they're stroking correctly, smoothly, and rotating to both sides to get out of the way of their hips with their arms when they're driving backwards. So those are my three. The three up there: the paddles, the aquafoil, and the snorkel. There's just one I'd like to mention, and that's this Finis tempo trainer. A lot's been said about tempo trainers in the press and things like that. This is the cheapest one I've found, and what it does, it beats a specific number of times per second. This is beating now 1 every second. Right, so if I put this under my hat and I try and match it, I know I'm going to match 60 beats per minute. And the adjustment's fairly easy, if I want to speed up my stroke, which 60 is slow, so I would tend to want to speed up from that, I can take it to 89. You can see that's sped up. Alternatively, if I'm doing drills and I actually don't want a fast stroke, I can actually slow my stroke down and go to something like 1.15 seconds per stroke, and you can see it's slowed down. So I would mention that as an exceptionally useful tool for triathletes, either to speed their stroke up or to slow it down. There's an added benefit that if you really want to do tempo training on the run, you can use that to set your cadence rate. And if you've got it clicking away, you'll go click, 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 click to 80, 90 strides per second. Okay, that's the lot for this week. Next week we're going to go into the mentality a little bit of triathlon and your thought processes that will create success on the day of a race. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you soon.